from a fourth and even fifth season to creating a massive Mandoverse of TV shows. Mando and Grogu are here to stay. So here's everything you need to know about The Mandalorian's fourth season and beyond. First things first, is season 4 a real thing and will we be getting it soon? That's the first question I had after I saw the trailer for season 3. The series has spent the past 2 seasons and half of the Boba Fett spinoff to give us a massive showdown between Din and Moff Gideon. And it's clearly been about Din reuniting the scattered Mandalorian warriors in a final standoff against Gideon's unlimited resources. At least that's what I thought it was building to. But it turned out that I just wasn't looking as far ahead as Favreau or Dave Filoni. In fact, as of this video, Favreau has already written the 4th season, and it's currently in pre-production. And here I was thinking I'd be saying goodbye to 2 of my favorite Star Wars characters sooner rather than later. But it gets even better. Total Film recently interviewed Favreau about the series, where he talked about his creative process when crafting a season of the show, as well as his vision for the franchise as a whole. It's in this interview where he basically said, "The 4th season's written, and the series isn't ending anytime soon." I'm paraphrasing, of course. He said a lot more than that, but that's the most important takeaway from the whole interview. Another key bit of info is that season 3 is just the midpoint of the whole series. As in, the big showdown that I was referring to earlier might not actually be as big as we're thinking. I mean, yeah, of course there's going to be a showdown between Din and Moff Gideon, but the story's just getting started. There's no grand finale that the narrative is building up to. There are going to be resolutions to certain plot threads and story beats over time. But yeah, you don't have to worry about Grogu growing up and leaving for at least a few years. Plus, Pedro Pascal's on everyone's radar these days too. It's like he's in every franchise where you need a magical kid transported from one place to another. I love it, and hope I see more of him in every franchise ever. So obviously Disney's gonna capitalize on that for as long as they can. He's been a leading man for a long time now, but there's just something about his performance as Din Djarin and Joel in The Last of Us that stands out to me.
What are we doing, Joe?
He's a lot, how do I put it, real. There's a rawness to his voice. There's a heaviness in his movement, and he plays both of them beautifully. And I'm sure Disney's CEO, Bob Iger, sees it too. He recently spoke with CNBC about the future of Disney Plus, and his answer was both comforting and concerning. You see, when a company like Disney realizes that a movie or TV series is doing really well with mainstream audiences, and that their revenue is going up as a result of that, they start making more of it to keep longtime fans hooked, reel new folks in, and keep the profit machine churning. And you know what? It works. Everyone went head over heels for The Mandalorian, and everyone still is. So we're gonna get season 4 for sure. That I'm 100% sure of. But then we'll get a 5th, and maybe even a 6th, and 7th. Favreau wants to write more Grogu stories, and Disney knows there's a massive market for it. But that's where a fan like me becomes concerned, because I don't want Grogu's story stretched to the point it becomes a caricature of itself. I have high expectations from season 3, but I'll have even higher expectations from season 4, because what comes after Moff Gideon is defeated? Or will he slither back into the shadows to fight another day? Will Din Djarin be the official Mandalore at the end of season 3? If so, will his priorities shift from exploring the galaxy to rebuilding his home planet? So many questions. Obviously, there's going to be plenty of material to work with for season 4, and I trust Favreau and Filoni to give the fans one epic adventure after another. But it also runs the risk of staying past its welcome. I love what Craig Mazin, the writer of Chernobyl and The Last of Us, said about storytelling in TV shows. He doesn't want a show running past its course just because a network wants to make more money. He wants to write an ending. The same way Vince Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould did with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, or even Jane the Virgin, which ended after 5 amazing seasons, and is one of my all-time favorite sitcoms. The point is, even though Favreau hasn't written a grand finale for The Mandalorian right now, I hope there's at least some kind of plan to end things on a high note, rather than running the series into the ground like so many networks have done in the past. On the flip side, another handful of Mandalorian seasons will help build the new era of Star Wars. So I know I've said that I'm 100% sure that season 4 is going to happen, even though nothing's been officially announced yet, but hear me out. Yes, a show's scripts being written beforehand isn't a new thing. Plenty of shows do that to streamline production as much as possible, but the way Favreau and Filoni are doing it is a little different. They've essentially mapped out the upcoming plots for The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and the Skeleton Crew. So instead of having them standalone narratives like Andor, their plots and story beats are going to weave together into one large, continuous story. And I don't know. I like the idea very much, but also think it's really risky. Standalone shows like Andor get so much hype because they don't rely on other narratives or connecting movies to tell a story. And if you're building an MCU-type universe, then everything needs to connect to one another cohesively. And we've all seen the messy nature of Phase 4, right? People have pointed out countless plot holes. There aren't any standalone shows except Werewolf by Night and maybe Moon Knight. Everything else requires context, previous installments, or just a general idea of what happened during Infinity War. It's a lot of homework for newcomers, and just becomes exhausting to watch after a while. Marvel fatigue is real, folks, and I hope it never happens to Star Wars. We know that The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and Skeleton Crew all take place within the same time period, so a lot of major events will obviously overlap, but by how much? And can we expect crossover episodes where Din Djarin shows up to help Ahsoka and vice versa? Will Ahsoka make an appearance in Skeleton Crew? I wish I knew the answer, but it's all under wraps right now. Favreau and Filoni know how to keep plot details from leaking, so we won't know for sure until there's an official update from them. They're both producing all 3 shows together, so I hope everything blends together really well. Disney leaning into Star Wars means that they're gonna try making The Mandalorian into a sort of Mandoverse, where new and old characters can come in and out whenever they're needed. And personally, I think they're gonna go ahead and have an Avengers-esque showdown one day. Like, all the main characters of all the 3 shows will come together and fight a gnarly Sith Lord or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I think of the whole situation, and I certainly hope the showrunners do it justice. We're not gonna get season 4 anytime soon because Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew still need to release sometime this year, but I've got my fingers crossed for mid-2024. And that's all I have for today. What do you think of a Mandoverse? And do you think it'll work? Let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one.